IV3-erna, de kommer samlas allihopa på samma ställe och vi kan jobba vidare med prissättning.
I'm happy to be here. I am Samu, product designer from Graphisoft headquarters in Budapest. And I wanted to begin with a story, but actually yesterday, when the guys from bl.a showed me their office, a question arose. And the question was, let me just show you more. Oh, okay, you can see what I see. Yes, so the question was, what am I doing? What a product designer does at Graphisoft HQ? Because there were some misunderstandings here. He was asking, what kind of code am I using? Is it C++ or C? And these were, I know these words, but I don't do coding. And for this, I made a simple map about how am I situated inside this economy of developing a program like ARCHICAD at Graphisoft HQ. So you are here, the users, and just imagine the situation that you are using ARCHICAD. By the way, how many of you use ARCHICAD from here? Let's just see. Oh, that's quite amusing. Thank you. So you are using ARCHICAD in a daily basis, and you have some problems with it maybe. Not much, but a little bit. And you want to share those problems with someone, those requests with someone. So this is where our local partners, like bl.a, is coming into the picture. Like you can go to bl.a and tell him, oh, I'm using this program for like 50 years now, and this is bugging me. This problem is bugging me. So bl.a can contact our product management, who are some architects of the field who have quite a good experience, and they are making this roadmap for Graphisoft, how we are developing, how we are getting further, we are improving ARCHICAD in the future. And this is where I come in, because I am in contact with these product managers on a daily basis, and I am trying to translate their needs, their requirements, their ideas into workflows, into features that you will see on the monitor. So I am an architect as well. Most of you are architects. How many of you are architects here? Okay, that's quite a number. And I am the one who is talking with the programmers who are using the C++, the C#, the C, all kinds of programming languages to develop something for you to use. And after this, it is enveloped into some nice images and pictures and the slogan, and this is where the marketing is trying to sell it to you. So for me, you are the users, you are my best friends, and for the marketing, you are the clients, you are the ones they want to sell something for. Okay, but let's go back to my story, because this is about these product designers at Graphisoft as well. So the other week, this was last week actually, we went on a team building, and you will see why am I talking about this team building. So at this team building, our goal was to create a picture, but it was not just a simple picture. It was not a modern digital art. We were making a painting, and I will zoom in. Don't worry. And we were making this painting together as a team. And this was the twist, because usually one person creates a painting and he's really proud of himself. But we were creating this painting, and you can see the legs of my colleagues. And this was the result, which is, I would say, I was quite amazed by how good we could do this picture. And why am I talking about this now? Because as you can see, we were making this picture, like the 20 of us, so we enlarged this picture and sliced it up into 20 pieces. And each of us got a slice like this, which is quite abstract, and it's really hard to see the big picture from this small one. So think about this as your profession. You are doing something that you are really good at it, that you are concentrating on, and you try to make it the best you could. But this is not enough in the end of the day to deliver the full picture for your clients, because you are in close relationship with all your neighbors, and your neighbors in this example are the other disciplines that are working with you. Like if you're an architect, you are working with all the engineers, the MEP engineers, the structural engineers, you are working with interior designers, you are working with landscape architects, and the list is quite long. And you are just doing a small picture, which is really important for you, and it's really important for the whole project as well, but you need to cooperate, collaborate with each other. And why am I talking about this? Now, recently at Graphisoft headquarters, at the development, there were two main focuses to carry on with developing ARCHICAD, and the first one was productivity. We want to deliver something. We want to deliver the tools for you to work faster, to achieve your goals productive way. And the other thing is collaboration. In the further years, we want to enhance the collaboration between those disciplines to make their work easier together, to make that communication, that collaboration really good. And this presentation will be about mainly these topics, and of course, the new features of ARCHICAD 23. Okay, and let's just jump into the first feature that I want to talk about, which is the new beam and column tool. Now, the beam and column tool, they have been around in ARCHICAD for like forever. It is an essential part of architectural design. And we made some changes so it could fit more this collaboration theme. And how I will present these changes, I will have three types of examples. First, I will show you precast concrete structures. Then I will show you steel elements. And in the end, I will finish this topic with the glued laminated timber components. I hope you're excited. So let's jump into it. This will be around 20 minutes of the presentation. And I forgot to tell you that this presentation will be around roughly an hour. If you have any questions, save them for the end. If you don't have time at the end of this presentation, I will be here all day, so you can ask me anything if you're interested. So let's just jump into ARCHICAD 23 and the new beam and column tool. So imagine the situation that you need to plan or design or build a structure like this. This is a typical industrial building, and the engineer requires you to use precast concrete structures to deliver it. We can see a pre-built model here, which represents this idea. And let me just zoom in to the supports and joints of this building. This is how the engineer imagined. This is how he requires us to model the structures for him. And for those who are daily users of ARCHICAD, you might ask yourself, how would I model this with the previous versions of ARCHICAD? Well, some of you may say you would use the morph tool. Some of you would create custom GDL objects. But for the both of these are nice methods, but you know that this is a bit time-consuming, sometimes really cumbersome, and it's not just the modeling that you need to do. In the end of the day, you need to deliver a documentation, a 2D documentation of this plan as well. So, and to create this documentation with those tools that I mentioned was quite a struggle sometimes. We can all agree with that. So let's see how we could do this with ARCHICAD 23 with the new enhancements. Let me just zoom into this model where this part of the model is not ready yet. We can see it easily. We are missing the support that can hold this beam. And we have some problems with the beam as well. But let's start with the column. Let me just start the magic here. So in ARCHICAD 23, one of the new features inside beam and column tool is the segmentation. Now, inside the element itself, we can create separate segments, which are like divisions inside this element. So I can easily create some divisions inside it, and whoops, yes. And what the characteristic of this segment is that if I go into the editing mode, I can easily manipulate, I can easily edit the cross section of this element, if I just change it here. And I can create a simple cantilevered support for this beam with just a few clicks, which is nice. But the engineer would like to use, he wouldn't like to use this simple cantilevered support. He would like to use a corbels type support. A corbel type of support is really similar to this one, but it has an angled bottom part to transfer the forces. Now let me just show you another nice feature inside the beam and column tool, and this is the tapered type of segment. And the tapered type of segment is special because you can just easily set the dimensions of a cross section separately for the bottom and the top. So you can see here, I just adjust it by a few clicks, and now I have this corbel type of support, and my column is already ready, which I'm quite happy with. And by the way, it's really easy for me to talk about this topic because as a designer, I was part of the team who developed this tool. So if you have any questions, I will be probably the one who can easily answer those questions in the end. Now let's go forward because we have not much time for this presentation. And let me just show you easily how we can adjust the beam as well. Now we can see that there are some problems with this beam. First of all, let me just focus on the fact that this is a T-shaped profile, and for this T-shaped profile, which is also, if you are familiar with last year's enhancements, this is a parametric complex profile. A parametric complex profile, how many of you use parametric complex profile in your daily work? Not many, so maybe it's nice that I can talk about this now. So with the parametric complex profile, in the profile editor, you can define some offsets for this profile, and in the unique instances where you put down that profile, you can make some custom changes, some offsets of the edges that you predefined previously. So let me just use this feature with the new beam and column features that I told you about, and let's see what is the problem here with the beam. Now you can easily see at this point that at the support part, we have some overlapping of geometry, which is not very good at this situation. We want to have this support, we want to make this connection a clear connection without these modeling errors. And you could create a new profile for this. You could create a simple rectangular profile for this. But here, I would like to show you how we can use the custom profile with the new features of the beam and column tool. Let me just adjust the bottom part of this beam, this T-shape, and now we have this support at the join. Okay, so the other problem that we are facing here, that we don't really need this much thickness at the middle of our beam. We don't need it for structural functions, and also for economical reasons, we would like to adjust it. So let me just, we have another modifier here, and let me just adjust this part so it can be a bit less thick. And with a few clicks, now I created a more economic beam here. But we still have the problem here with this gap. It's not connecting the two parts together, but we know already the answer for this problem, which is the tapered segment, where I can create the transition between the two segments at the side and the middle easily. And now, as we look at it from the distance, this is something that our engineers might be looking for when creating these details. Okay, so we can go forward, and let's see how this building looks from the inside. Okay, so now we can see that this is something that we can easily make with the new enhancements of the tool. But let me talk about one detail here, which is the rafter of this building. A rafter, if you're not familiar as with the word, I'm not an expert in the English terms as well, so I needed to look what a rafter is. A rafter is a beam that supports the roof itself. So it's here you can see that it's an angled top. It has a slant angle at the top, and let's just see how we can create something like this in the new version. So let's just zoom into this model. It is already prepared for our example. We just need to use something that will make the top parts angled. So I can use, and we already know the answer. Let me just zoom in a little bit. The tapered segment, which is already set to it, and let me just create this shape. And on the other side, I can just easily, if I can select it, I can just easily snap to the first created point. And we can all agree that this is something that the engineer might look for in our modeling. Now, I've shown you some modeling. Let me just show you another last example about this, another use of this tool, which is a simple concrete pocket footing. Now, this is a very simple column with two segments. At the bottom, we have a simple rectangular segment, and we are using a custom profile at the top with some tapering and the hollow center. So I showed you some modeling, how we can model things in the new version of ARCHICAD. But I've already told you that modeling is just a small part. It's a big part, but it's just half of the story of how we want to deliver these elements in our plan, in our projects, in our plans. And the other really important part is the 2D documentation. It's about the floor plan, the sections, and the elevations. And we want to be able to create these with an ease as well. I have good news for you, because we made some enhancements in these fields as well. And let me just show you one of the cool features that we made possible here in the new version. We have some beams and columns here. This is a top-down view, and we have a slab covering these elements. And we can see that now in the new version, and let me just tell you that this slab is probably a floor, and the beams and columns under it are the base of this building. So now you understand the situation here probably, and we can easily see that the representation of these objects are quite well projected. So we have some hidden elements which are automatically set to dashed line, and we have some elements which are at the section level, which are demonstrated by a solid line. But let me do a little twist here and create an opening inside this slab. And now you can see that ARCHICAD acknowledged that these elements now are not covered by a slab, and it automatically changed the line type of these elements. And if I just adjust this a little more, I can show you that even if you want a hybrid line type between, like if you want a beam with which is cut in the middle with a slab, you can easily show how you can easily generate this view of the hidden lines and the lines that are shown on the plan itself. But how can you access this new feature? Well, you need to go to the model view option. You can access it from either from the quick menu in the bottom, or you can access it from here, from the menu document model view. And here you can see that these options enable us to have the column and the beam with different representation if they are hidden under a slab or not. Also, I want to show you a nice feature that was added in this version, which is about the slab. So when we have two slabs facing each other and they are in connection with each other, now we can have different options to document this. Now we can either have the lines showing between them, and you can see it on this preview picture, or you can set it to hidden lines. It's a bit hard to see for me, but believe me, it's hidden lines. Or you can set it to have eliminated, which is quite nice, I would say. Okay, let's go further on this demo. And let me just show you another feature which was highly requested by our users. We will see how Sweden thinks about this feature now. And let me just select some elements and open the settings dialog. I will talk about settings dialog a bit later. And let me just go to the floor plan section part. And now, from version 23, now you can set cover fill for beams as well, which is quite nice, I would say. It was really requested. Okay, so we talked about 3D modeling. We talked about documentation. What are we missing from the BIM modeling is data. And at Graphisoft, we love data, and we love to use data as well. And of course, for the new beam and column with this segmented elements, now the element and the segments as well have data assigned to them. And how we can visualize it, how we can easily demonstrate it, by using a label. And let me just use a beam a label for the element first. Here you can see that actually this is a label made by a custom property, which is an expression. How many of you know the custom property expression? How many of you use it? Okay, that's nice. Quite a few of you. And but also what we can do here, this was on the element, we can put a label on the segments as well. And how you can do it, it might be familiar for you already. From the stair or the curtain wall tool, you can push the tab key on your computer, and this way you can cycle between, I hope you can see it, between the segment and the element itself. Oops, there's some problem here. Okay, I was misclicking there. So you can see that you can easily visualize different type of data by just using some label favorites and using the new beam and column tool. Okay, but also this is I talked about this with the precast concrete structures, but this is also true for all beams and columns, not just on this type. So let's move on to another structure type, which is the steel structure. And here we have a simple sports hall structure, which is quite easy, quite simple. It only needs some wall covering, it needs some roof, and underneath it needs a steel structure. Well, this was quite easy to make with previous versions as well, but let's just make a twist on this design and skew the structure a little bit. Let's distort the whole plan a little bit. Now you can see that all these frames are unique and they are not symmetric anymore. How can we do this easily with the new version? Well, let me just use another favorite, and I will use now a column favorite here. And let me demonstrate a new placement method for the beam and column, which is a two-click placement. Let me just trying to show you a view that. Okay, so you can see from the preview that for the two-click placement you just need 2 points. You can enter 2 points in the 3D coordinate system, and it just snaps to those points. So here, if I just click on this, my element is created with the exact slant angle. I may have misclicked here on the bottom, but it's not very important at this example. And also, let me just create the other part here quite easily. And now we have the column. We just need the beams that connect the frame itself. And let me use another favorite for this. And with a few clicks, I can create. Oh yes, here you can see that I misclicked the bottom, but let's just disregard it. Here you can see, and okay, it's not helping me now. Okay, so you can see that we created this frame with a few clicks. And you can also see that there is a lot of information inside this, and you might wonder where this information is coming from. Well, of course, it's coming from the favorite, which I used here. I can show you, it's here. But I will also show you the settings dialog for this element. So you can see that the settings dialog of the beam and column have changed a lot from previous versions, and but you can also see that it's familiar because it's really similar to the one from the curtain wall or the stair tool, which means that the beam and column tools are now hierarchic as well. So they can combine different parts into one element. And let me just move to the segments parts, where you can see that we have this list. And let me just make this a bit bigger. And this beam is built up from these 3 segments, as you could also see on the example that it had these 3 segments. And another interesting feature that we also used in this example, that we introduced different types of length of these segments. So you can either make it a fixed length, you can just type in some numbers and it will stay that number until you change it from other sources, or you can set it to flexible to flexible length, which always adds up to the entire length of the element. So you can just say that this part will be, you want to have it the half of the element always, and whatever size you will give to a beam, it will always be the half of that element. Okay, really nice, I think. Okay, let's just move on and see how these frames added up in the end, which are quite nice looking. And let's see what the whole building looks like now. You can see that now with the new tools, we can easily create, for example, these cross bracings that strengthens the system, and all the other sub-elements, because you can use the 2 clicks and you can just easily add them in any location inside this coordinate. It's quite nice, I would say. Okay, let me just... Okay, finally, but last but not least, let me just show you a little bit more twist in this system. So up until now, I was talking about more of an orthogonal systems, which were using polygonal segments. Now let me show you another example, which is a water sports arena, where our engineers, and probably us as architects, I mean, I'm an architect, not all of you are architects, would like to use something out of this orthogonal shape and something that can bear this long span distance between the 2 supports. Now, what we are planning to use here is a glued laminated timber beam, and let me just put it down here. And we already know, well, most of you already know that in Graphisoft, up until now, in ARCHICAD up until now, you could create curved beams in the horizontal plane. But something that we put into ARCHICAD at this version was to create, and let me just show you in the pad palette, a vertically curved element inside. So you can easily create a vertically curved beam now that can make up like this sports arena. And let me just show you how this sports arena looked in the end of our example plan. It looked quite nice, I would say. Okay, so this was about the beam and column tool. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask me at the end or after the presentation. Let me just... Okay, I have a bit more examples for this topic, because at Graphisoft we cooked up something crazy with using these tools, and we made a cathedral, a medieval cathedral. And what you can see here is all of the structural elements, the beams, the columns, the vaults, the ribs on the vaults, they were all made using the new beam and column tool, and it can look quite fabulous, I would say. I really like this cathedral. Okay. So let's move on to the next topic, which is also critical in this process of collaborating with the different disciplines. And this part of the presentation will be about the new opening tool. I hope you will like it. So, what is an opening and how to describe it? Well, the beam and column tools were elements, and the opening is like the absence of an element. So how you could create an opening in previous versions? Well, you could simply use a window or a door tool, and there we had some basic empty openings, which were used for architectural reasons, but we wanted to enhance this feature for more of a collaborating system for not just architects, but for the engineers as well. And now, with a simple click, you can create an opening inside an element. And here, well, I will talk about a little bit of IFC, but I also want to tell you that I'm not a professional in IFC. You are probably a lot more professional in the field of IFC as well. But let me just tell you that in IFC standards, an opening can be set to one element, but it can also set to multiple elements. It can go through multiple elements. So we wanted to keep this IFC standard in mind. So now you can easily add multiple hosts for one opening to create something like this. And this is quite cool, but also we require some flexibility with the openings as well. And let me just illustrate this flexibility, because now with this new feature, you can of course align the opening with the surface that is the host for it, or you can create a vertical. Let me just go out, or a horizontal, or a custom angled opening inside an element. And let me just elaborate this custom angle. Let me just show you an example. And here, first of all, you can see that this opening is not a rectangle anymore. It's a circular one. But we also have some other elements. We have a wall here. We have a slab. And we have a mesh tool here. And I can also put down, for example, a big beam here. Oops, yeah. Show layer. Just for the sake of demonstration. And I was talking about custom angles, so let's rotate this opening, which is requires some precision in 3D. Oops, and I of course lack the precision. Okay. So let's see if this opening can cut through multiple objects here. Oops, I overdone it, but yes, it can cut through. And okay. I wanted to demonstrate something cool here, but I, of course, missed my opportunity. And okay, we all believe that it can cut through the beam itself too. Let's just not waste some time on it, because coordinating in this three-dimensional system is sometimes a headache. Okay, so we can model this element, this opening. What else do we need here? Let me just refer to my previous sentences, what we need. Like, we need modeling, we need the 2D documentation, and we need some data. And let's go first into the data part, because of course the opening tool can have some properties as well, and you can easily demonstrate these properties with a label or with a schedule. Let me just show you one label, because it's a lot more interesting to look at than a schedule. And let me just put it here. And you can see that this opening has some ID, has some dimensions, and has a classification. But you can add a lot more properties to it that you can visualize with labels, or you can list in a schedule. Okay, but let's start with some examples and see how we can use this opening tool in some real-world examples. Now let's look at this building, and the situation here, we are in the early stages of the design, and this will be an architectural example. So, but there will be some engineering examples later too. So we are in the early stage of the design, and a typical challenge here for an architect is, for example, elevator shafts. So in previous versions, to create an elevator shaft that goes through multiple levels, so for example, in a high-rise building, it was quite a challenge because you needed to make those openings on every floor, and you needed to create the 2D documentation of this opening on each floor as well. So for example, on a, I don't know, 50-story building, if you had multiple elevator shafts, you would have needed to do this like 100 times, which is not the best productivity, and it's not even a good design task to be done. So what is the solution here with the new opening? We saw that you can easily create it one by one, and you can easily connect them together, but it's still a bit of a hassle if you want to create something like this. So we kept this in mind, and we created something that is using provisions for voids that you are probably familiar with. How many of you use provision for voids in your daily workflows? Okay, that's a bit surprising. So provision, I will talk about provision for voids later, but the essential thing that you need to know about it, that when the engineers are working with an architect, and their disciplines might collide. Like you can have some structural elements, but which are the domain of the structural engineer, but there might be some ducts going through these elements, and there the MEP engineer might require you to have some openings inside structural elements, and this is where the challenge begins, because you need to communicate and collaborate these problems quite well. So here, to create these provisions, we use some morphs, but you could use any objects for this function, and I can use this morph to cut through all these floors with the use of just one click. And I can do this multiple ways. I can just go here in the context menu. I right-clicked if someone didn't hear it, and use the create opening from selection tool. Now here we have some options to choose from. Well, we have an option to choose the shape, and I just leave it on automatic. We can set some offsets if the engineer didn't define a clearing around his ducts. We might want to use some offsets here, and we can select keep original elements or let them be deleted. I will just use the delete option because it will be better for this presentation. And here we have some merging options. You can either set it for here in this example for the height of the floors and create an opening, and this will create one opening that, okay, I misclicked it. Okay, so let me just go back. Because our floors are taller than 4,000 millimeters, let's just set them to 4,500. And you can see that now I have created with a few clicks an opening that goes through a whole building. Now this is one workflow, and the other workflow is something that I accidentally showed you, which is when you don't want them to be merged. And we advise you to use this more often, because here individual openings will keep their individual data, and you can see that every opening here is created one by one, but with only a few clicks, and you didn't need to go through this. And now you might wonder, okay, I talked about the modeling, I talked about the data part. Now, what about floor plan? because previously we needed to create those symbols one by one. And of course, now with this new tool comes the automatic generation of the symbol for this opening. And here, as you can see, this is what I'm talking about. And you can use the options menu. Just disregard this noise here. I'm concentrating on this part. And I can set the uncut symbol for, in Hungary, we would set it for this one. And here you can see that it's automatically generated and it can fit the standards of your own country. Unfortunately, I don't know what Sweden uses here, but I hope that you can find the one symbol that you are using in your office standard symbol. Okay, let's go back to this provision for voids workflow and how we can use this in the daily communication between the different disciplines. Now, this is a simple project, and you can even see in this simple project that we have a lot of MEP equipment on the top, you can see, and also here there are some equipments, a lot of equipment for the air ventilation, for the heating system. And as I already mentioned, these parts at any point can collide with some structural elements. And when this problem arises, here is where we use this provision for voids workflow, where the MEP engineer sends the structural engineer some morphs which represent their elements, which are colliding with the body of their structural elements. And they need to cooperate and communicate this problem with each other. And here we have these problematic situations highlighted, where the elevator shaft and the structure of the elevator shaft is colliding with these small parts of engineering, these ventilation parts. And you can see that here in the example project, these are like 40 maybe, or 30. But in a real project, these challenges may have like thousands of collisions with it. So in a real project, managing all of these problematic situations might be a real time-consuming hustle for you. So what we can offer here, and let me just zoom further into one of the problems here. By the way, here we use some graphic overrides to filter out the elements that are not really necessary for our presentation. So here we have this air ventilation system going through one of the structural walls, one of the structural elements, and we can already see that the engineer who created these red morphs already thought about the offset, the space next to the elements that he wants to use there. So what we want to create here, we want to create some openings inside the structural element. And how we do it, we already know how we do it. We use the create opening command. And here, we don't need the offset because the engineer has already done it. In a real project, I would say keep original elements, because me as an architect, I have nothing to do with the engineer's part of the model, so I don't want to interfere with his doing. But for the sake of demonstration, I will now delete these red boxes so we can see what is happening. And I don't need to merge these elements together. So with a few clicks, I created these openings in the wall. And here you can also see it on the floor plan that this created these two symbols inside my floor plan. Okay, now we talked a lot about openings. I will show you just one more example, and this will be from the architect's perspective again. And this is about a refurbishment. Now, I don't know how often do you do refurbishment projects here in Sweden. Do you do it often, or is it something... Okay, I see a lot of people nodding, so you do a lot of refurbishments. Now here the situation is that we have this, for example, office building, and we have a new tenant who wants to refurbish his part of the building, and he has a requirement for us as an engineering team, as an architect team, that he needs to connect these two stories that he's renting from someone. And for this, he needs an internal stair. Now, for this demonstration, we enabled the headroom space visualization. I really hope that you all know, well, the ones who use ARCHICAD know about this feature because it can be a real time saver. And we will use this headroom visualization to create an opening. And how we do this? Of course, we do this with the Create Opening tool. And here, I want to make sure to keep the original element because I don't want to delete my own stair. And let me just click on the Create Opening. And as you can see, let me just go to here. It created an opening that fits exactly to the headroom requirements of my stair, which can be a real nice time saver and real nice thing for productivity. I hope you liked the opening tool. I think this was quite cool. But let's go further and let's... About 10 minutes?
Yeah, make it 5.
Okay, let's make it 5.
Then we will have time.
Okay, so
Later, more details.
So let me just go further and talk about some performance enhancements for the new feature. Well, performance is always really subjective, so it's really hard to talk about it because when it gets a bit faster, no one really understands like 5 seconds of quickness in a 40-second load time. So we wanted to, of course, focus on making the software quicker, but we also wanted to make sure to feel more quicker. This is why we implemented some of these hidden gems that are about the performance and about the quickness of ARCHICAD. So imagine your everyday, how you start your everyday. You start ARCHICAD. You want to continue the project that you left the day before. You start it and you know that it's a big project. You go to the coffee machine, you fire up the coffee machine, and you drink your coffee, you talk a little bit with your colleagues, and then you go back to your computer just to notice that your file isn't loaded because there is a message showing you that there are some problems like missing library or do you want to load it from an archive file or any questions, and you are really angry, you're like, why did I leave my desktop computer? And then you click OK, and then you go back to your daily routine, and then you return back and you still see another question that stops the loading time. So you are really angry at this time and you want to kill someone from Graphisoft. But good news, everyone, because we eliminated these questions, and let me just load this file again, and I might not have time for all this that I wanted to show, but I think this is huge because okay, it might ask me if I want to reload it because I already have it loaded. But in the meantime, I can talk about other things. So up until now, I didn't show this for you, but we have some, okay. Yes, I was talking about this because I already have this open. Okay, let's just open it in read only. So up until now, I didn't show you this, but we have some hidden gems. We were cooking some hidden gems in the headquarters. And these were mainly to help you to get around your project quicker, to understand what you are doing quicker. So this is why one of the new feature was created to, yes. We now have some of these preview images that will help you get around your project a bit faster. And but also, okay, we have these images here, and this might bother you. You can, of course, turn these off in the work environment. But the other thing that can help you in this process is this this tab overview, where you can easily find what you are. You might be working with like a multiple very similar sections, and you might want to use this one and not this one, and from the name you might not realize that you were looking for that. So what happened meanwhile on the other monitor? Yes, so we weren't questioned, we didn't get those questions. So you might ask, okay, so is my project all good? So am I not getting these questions because everything is fine? No, actually this file has some problems, and here I can show you how this new feature, the Action Center, comes into picture, where you can, first of all, it speaks the language of colors. We have the red, the orange, and the green. You might answer, okay, the red is bad, the orange is, well, it's still bad, but I can live with it, and the green is okay. But if I click on it, it can tell me some important information. And of course, I can access my well-known dialogues from this one page, which is really nice. And I'm pretty sure the BIM managers will be really glad about this feature. Okay, so this was quickly about performance. I wanted to talk a little bit more, but let me just move on. The final topic that I wanted to show you, which is BIMX. How many of you know BIMX? Ooh, that's really nice. And how many of you use BIMX in your practice? Wow, I'm really glad about this. So, for those of you who don't know BIMX, in BIMX you can basically see well, of course, first of all, you can publish a BIMX file from your ARCHICAD project really easily from the publisher. And after you publish it, you can publish it to the BIMX transfer site, where you can easily access it from an application. I don't have an iPad or another tablet here that I can show you, so I am just showing you these pictures, but you can easily access the structure of your project from a BIMX, and you can access the layouts, the 3D view, any of the views, and you can easily use it for presentation. And this is the main focus, presentation. And what we are cooking here, up until now we had BIMX, we had BIMX Pro, they had different sales, marketing strategies. But now we created BIMX Lab, which will merge these different types into one application from January. And what BIMX Lab will do, well, in previous versions at BIMX Pro, we could open files up until a limited size, because the difference between a computer and a tablet is that a computer can have virtually unlimited resources, but a tablet has a really limited resources if we compare them. Now, this was a problem up until now for now, but we designed a new 3D engine for the BIMX Lab, and now with this new design, in the BMX lab, you can open, well, virtually unlimited size of model. And how we did this, and this is where my demo will come in hand, and this will be the last thing I will show you, I promise, is this video. I will talk about it because it's muted. So here on the left, we have BMX lab. On the right, okay, I'm a bit surprised because it's mirrored. Okay, on the left you have BMX Lab, on the right you have the BMX Pro, and it's a comparison video that was recorded on an iPad Pro. And what you can see here is how those two applications look like, and you can easily see from this beginning point that the BMX Lab is a lot faster because we introduced this modeling engine that, first of all, it instances elements, which means that if you have multiple instances of one type of element, it will only load one, and the others will be just a multiplication of that one. And the other big thing that it is now using this technology that Graphisoft developed, which is how is it called? The memory streaming technology, which means that every time you look somewhere with the camera, this engine will only load that part that is visible into the memory, which means that even if you have a big model, only that small portion will be in the memory. So this means that if you have a really big model, even it will be able to read and navigate. Yeah, you can see that it is just loading these elements into the model here, and when you are looking away, they are disappearing in the back, and it's just dumped away. And you can also see, well, this could be a bad news for us, usually, that on the left, the BMX Pro already crashed because it ran out of memory, but the BMX Lab still can hold up to its name. Thank you very much.